Glad you could join us. And in our first story, Vice President Dr Mahamudu Bawumia has hit back at former President John Mahama, saying Mr. Mahama is embarrassing himself by criticizing government's handling of the COVID-19 fight. Dr. Bawumia was responding to recent comments the former president made about how the halter project started in the previous regime has badly affected how Ghana is dealing with the pandemic. The vice president, who was interacting with the media after chairing a coronavirus meeting at Jubilee House Monday morning, said no government in the Fourth Republic has delivered as much infrastructure in its first term as the Akufo-Addo-led government.
The NDC was in government for 8 years. They may think that we have short memories, but we can still remember very clearly that after 8 years that they had in office, in government, to demonstrate their prowess in managing this country and managing the economy, after 8 years, what did they leave us with? They left us with declining agriculture, declining industry, interest rates were high, inflation was high. In fact, if you look at the data, in terms of macroeconomic performance in any economy, since the year 2000, the tenure of the former president was the worst in terms of outcomes in macroeconomic performance. That's the data, it's not me saying it. The banking system was weak. Unemployment was rising. Our national health insurance was back to cash and carry. We had 4 years of doomsday with its devastating impact on our economy. And not even withstanding that, electricity prices were being increased by an average of 45% between 2010 and 2015. Our public finances were in a precarious state, of course, that resulted in us having to go to the IMF for a bailout and policy credibility. Prices were being increased. There was a freeze on public sector recruitment, cuts in allowances for teachers and lecturers, cuts in allowances for lecturers, abolition of teacher training allowances, abolition of nursing training allowances, and even for teachers who had worked for 2-3 years, they were being paid just 3 months of allowances. I mean, common chalk was even a problem in our schools. And this is really the history that the NDC would want us to forget, and which we should not forget. Our memories should not be that short. We should remember what they did. And Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo took over the reins of government in 2017. After just over 3 years in office, he's been able to manage the transformation of this country, and we have been able to perform much, much better than the situation we inherited. In fact, the data is very clear. And so my humble advice to former President Mahama is to take a look at the data. This is not green book data. This is just the data, right? Take a look at the data before you speak. Otherwise, you will end up embarrassing yourself.
Now, on leadership in times of crisis, Dr. Bawumia said President Akufo-Addo has demonstrated competence amidst the COVID-19 pandemic better than the former president, who failed to properly manage the doomsday situation during his time.
If you want to test the robustness of an economy, you test it in a time of crisis. Thankfully, we have had 2 crises. Under the NDC, there was an internally generated crisis, which was doomsday. Under the presidency of Nana Akufo-Addo, there has been an externally generated crisis, which has been the global coronavirus pandemic. I just want you to ask yourselves, how have these 2 crises been managed? The doomsday crisis, which crippled this economy for 4 years. What were the mitigating measures offered to businesses and individuals during doomsday? This was an internally generated crisis. We saw that even during doomsday, electricity prices were being increased. Fuel prices were being increased. Teacher training allowances were being cancelled. Nursing training allowances were being... All of that was happening during that particular crisis. You look at the coronavirus crisis and you look at the difference in terms of what has happened. The president has reduced electricity prices, made it free for lifeline consumers, has given free water for all Ghanaians for 3 months, has made sure that there is a stimulus package of 600 million Ghana cedis for businesses. And we have seen domestic production of PPEs, personal protective equipment for our health workers locally. So that the difference couldn't be more stark between the leadership under a crisis under the DUMSO and that under the coronavirus epidemic. So I ask a simple question. Who will you trust in a time of crisis? The answer, I would say, is very, very clear. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has shown leadership and concern for ordinary Ghanaians.
Now, still on COVID-19, the northern region has recorded 3 more cases of the pandemic. One is from the Tolong district, a head porter who returned to the area, while the other 2 are from the Nanumba South district. Health officials have begun contact tracing of these cases. These results are coming from the testing center at the Tamale Teaching Hospital Public Health Laboratory, which began testing last Thursday. Martina Bogri joins us with more. Martina, what more do we know about this head porter and the rest of the cases?
What we know is that he returned recently from Accra to the area and developed some symptoms, and so he was samples were taken and tested, and it turned out positive. The other one in Tolong, the health director says it was through contact tracing. And these people, he says that there are issues of stigma, and so it's beginning to have an effect on contact tracing. The person is actually from Williamson, that is Nanumba South, has to come to meet them around Zabzugu so that they can interact and then begin. He thinks that the media should begin educating people that there is the need to stop stigmatizing people so that people can come out boldly and then they can be able to get people who are positive to be tested and then treated.
Martina, did he share the number of cases that have been tested? I mean, the number of samples that have been tested in Tamale since Thursday?
Yes, he says that about 300 samples were tested, and that's the first test conducted at the public health laboratory at the PTA, and that they have, he says 4, but the one is an old case and who is on treatment, and so they were retesting to see if it would turn out positive or negative, but it turned out to be positive, and so out of the 300 samples, they had 4 that came out.
Thank you very much, Martina Bugri, for that update. Now back to the capital. Have you ever wondered how a positive COVID-19 test result looks like? Do you know the processes a sample goes through till it appears on the Ghana Health Service website? Do you know what happens to a sample after it is tested? Tonight at 8:30 p.m. on the Joy News channel, we bring you the first part of our latest documentary dubbed Inside Noguchi, an exclusive no-holds-barred tour of Ghana's biggest testing center, the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. Here are excerpts.
It's our COVID-19 special, and prior to the COVID season, I would say that the Noguchi Memorial Institute was not as busy as it is now. As I speak, I can count about 4 vans, pickup vans, from the various sectors health directorates across the country. I have with me a special guest. Today, she's not talking politics. Susan Edouard-Mankwa, she's head here. What exactly do you do here?
Okay, so this is the sample receipts area. Initially, we have a sample receipt post, but as you said, these are busy times and unusual times. But they still go through the process as it is. So when they first arrive, they stop at the security gate, and then they fill out the sample receipt form. So, the person bringing the sample, who they are bringing the sample to, the number of samples, and the date and the time. So that's what we do here. We check the forms against the samples and make sure that the forms match the samples before they go into the lab. So this is how GASAF have presented their samples. So it's easy to count and then to check. You see that these are individually packed. Yes. Okay. So they've individually packed them in polythene or Ziploc bags.
That makes it difficult.
That makes it a little difficult. But the different ways, and then they have those who are coming with the swabs. But basically, these are the two different ways.
The final point.
No. Yes, not to the lab.
Okay.
These ones are going to the cold room.
Okay.
And then these ones are labeled suspected samples. So these ones will go straight to the lab.
So which district are you coming from?
From Ewutu-Senya East.
Ewutu-Senya East. So what's currently happening?
These are surveillance samples we brought.
How tedious is the process?
It's very difficult.
Very difficult. Did you get a mix-up along the line? Because usually you would have done the sorting before coming in. What happened along the line?
We did the sorting all right. But when we got here, I realized that we're still having challenges.
How long do you think this will take you for you to sort out before your samples are taken?
Roughly 30 minutes with you.
Okay. Please, may I know your name?
I'm Maxwell Adobo.
Okay. I wish you all the best. I pray that you finish that shortly. At this point, we'll go straight into it. Then we'll bring you what happens in the lab as well.
What is going on now? Brought in here and kept here for contact tracing. This box contains samples that we have. We have food. Good. This is for freezing samples. Okay.
These are the people that are behind the figures. So I'm sure that once they get the data quickly, we will also get the results. So be patient about it. They are trying to do a diligent work, and then we can all get the best.
We see more of Noguchi tonight at 8:30 p.m. on this channel. Now, police in the eastern region are unclear about charging chiefs who flouted laws restricting movement and social distancing directives to install the new paramount chief of Ikuapem. While the Somia police have given indication that some 14 persons arrested for performing puberty rites in Somia in breach of the same law on social gathering will be put before court tomorrow, the police are yet to take a decision on the chiefs who were arrested and granted bail last Friday. The Ikropong District Police Commander Stephen Tete is not certain when the case will be dealt with. Kofi Siao joins us there. Kofi, tell us exactly what these chiefs did. Right, Kofi Siao is a man in the eastern region. He has more details on this arrest and the charge which may be leveled against these chiefs. Kofi, if you can hear me, we want to know exactly what happened. We are seeing some pictures on the screen. Can you walk us through that? Right, we'll establish contact with Kofi Siao and get a bit more explanation on the pictures that we are seeing. As you can see, some traditional rites are going on, and it is this ceremony, we understand, which caused the police to arrest those 14 persons, pardon me, those chiefs. The 14 persons were arrested in connection with the rites, the traditional rites that were performed.
Good afternoon, my name is Kadi Asamoah. This is Showbiz right here on Joy News Today. Now to my very first story. Popular Kumawood actor Bernard Nyarko was reported dead on Saturday, the 2nd of May 2020. Now Ghana has really lost a gem in the movie industry. My colleague Sandra Akapo caught up with his elder brother Isaac Darko, and he shared how it all happened.
But if you say you're that serious, you're my which is last year. So me no for feedback emre no me because o yare a de be yare no nti ma me ne buy na ke say ma me be hwe no for say hey enye nti na say in the hospital no mo full body scan no mo hwe ni padua no ne wo mu ni ade nyina nti no scan ni buy na ke say say cancer nti no na say ye ni ko no su ni ave ma no ni ade na say ade no still na enye nti no we no mom yes say ade o me no operation say bi o metima atwa ade no afroa o me operation na ke say ni o ma enye nti we no inya doctor ba ko no otema no need so o cancer doctor na juma no nti no ye de ne e ko ni nchen e otema e ko tema on si treat ya na say the more o treat the more o ye weekend nti we no Monday I say afide and your mamu ayeti it's only 5 by Rich Hospital saying far no corner I'm going to because afide.
Now, away from that, close friends of High Life musician Castro on Sunday came together to celebrate the singer via virtual concert on Instagram. The concert, initiated by record producer JQ, saw celebrities like Shatta Wale, Prince, Abeku Santana and Sarkodie.
Hip Life musician Castro would have turned 38 last week, 6 years after he disappeared. His colleagues honored him with a virtual birthday concert led by one of his favorite producers, JQ. Sarkodie, Prince, Abeku Santana, Shatta Wale shared their fondest memories of the under fire destroyer.
Castro is one man where we need to support because he's really pushed this industry far. I can boldly say that he's one of the main artists that, really give, our neighboring countries, in terms of African countries, that idea to sing in a certain way. Castro was one of the, because he used to travel everywhere and he has fans everywhere, all over Africa, So maybe one guy with me, I have to say, any day, anyhow, any support, me, I go for support. And as I do here right now, I promise everybody, and if they go for send somebody, maybe after this I'll give you my PN number. Yeah, I just support with this thing with 10,000 Ghana cedi. Make they just
Yeah, that's MCS Adnam Toffee and San cash fees. We say cash fees, only school fees and they were Shilo. Yeah, and also Eddie Mame and Sana, Juma Radio, Untimini one, Jumtini Bako in your Juma, go to see every.
Okay, so that was, we have Shatta Wale and then Prince. They're talking about, they're sharing fond memories of Castro. But Daniel, did you watch the 3 Music Awards?
I watched Kofi Kinata take the biggest award of the night.
Yes, Sarkodie won lots of awards too. And then Daughters of Glorious Jesus, my God, their performance was just...
They just stole the show and took it home.
Yes, like they always do. Their performance was just so much. And then the fan army, Sarkodie, Sark Nation, congrats to you guys.
It was a great show. That's the first virtual show and it was good. Let's see how the Vodafone Ghana Music Awards will turn out. All right, thank you very much, Karen, for bringing the showbiz. And this is where we end this bulletin of Joy News today. My name is Daniel Daze. Up next, Daryl comes back with the marketplace. But remember, go on myjoyonline.com if there's any news you missed.